Good afternoon, everybody. I hereby call this meeting of the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission to order. This meeting is being recorded as well as streamed live for the public. Ms. Silbaugh, do we have a quorum today?
Sorry, didn't unmute myself. Yes, we do have a quorum today. The quorum for the WMSC is four of our commissioners, and participating today are yourself as chair, Secretary Treasurer Farrar Dyke, and Commissioners Bob and Conklin. We are anticipating a few more to join, but we do have a quorum for beginning the meeting.
Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed, but please let me know when they arrive.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. Now we will turn to our safety message from Mr. Braxton. Mr. Braxton?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Safety is the backbone of every successful operation. As a transit worker, safety, vigilance protects lives and ensure everyone's get home safe at the end of their workday. Always wear your personal protective equipment, PPE, including high visibility clothing, hard hats, gloves, boots, and eye protection. Stay alert around tracks. Trains approach silently and at high speeds. Never assume a track is inactive. Communicate clearly with your team and follow all safety protocols. Be cautious when working near moving equipment and maintain a safe distance from that equipment. Always report hazards immediately and never take shortcuts. Safety isn't just a rule, it's a responsibility. Action matters, and everyone's commitment to safety help build a stronger, safer work environment. Let's work together to protect each other and return home safely to our loved ones. Thank you, and that concludes the safety message.
Thank you, Mr. Braxton. We will now move on to the minutes from our last meeting. Secretary Treasurer Farrar Dyke, your floor.
Good afternoon. The minutes of the September 16, 2025 meeting were posted for review. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? I move approval of the September 16, 2025 minutes as circulated. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bob has seconded the motion. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed, please raise your hand and say nay.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. Chair, the vote is 4 yeas to 0 nays. The motion to approve the minutes as presented passes.
Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. We provide an opportunity. The next item on the agenda is that we provide an opportunity for public comments at each of our meetings. To ensure we recognize all who wish to speak, we provide an opportunity for those who have joined the Zoom meeting to sign up in the chat box. If you wish to speak but did not sign in, please do so now. I would also remind everyone, including those of you watching on YouTube, that you can always report any safety concerns through our website, WMSC.gov, through our social media channels, or by email. Ms. Miner, do we have anyone who has indicated they would like to speak today?
No, Chair Hart, there are no names in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Miner. We will now continue with the next agenda item, which is my remarks. I'll start with congratulations and welcome to alternate Commissioner Brad Belzak. DC Mayor Bowser appointed Commissioner Belzak for a 4-year term to the WMSC, and the DC Council concurred. Commissioner Belzak is a longtime Homeland Security and Defense policy expert, and I look forward to his contributions to our commission. As I have said many times before, I want to give thanks again to the 3 jurisdictions, Maryland, Virginia, and DC, for selecting commissioners for this commission who have strong substantive backgrounds that are relevant to improving transportation safety. I have every confidence that those substantive backgrounds help the commission do its job far more effectively and efficiently. Next, our meeting today includes updates on WMSC's ongoing safety oversight activities and the actions that we take on a daily basis to ensure that Metro Rail upholds its safety commitments and strives to continuously improve the safety of its system. I appreciate the ongoing communication and coordination that the WMSC staff conducts with Metro Rail at all levels of both organizations. This includes the ongoing work related to audits and corrective action plans, safety certification, investigations, and inspections. During the meeting today, commissioners will also review and vote on 3 resolutions. The first is to transmit the WMSC's draft fiscal year 2027 work program and budget to our jurisdictional funding partners. The second resolution is authorization for the CEO to enter into a contract exceeding $50,000 in value. And the third resolution is to approve WMATA's proposed Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. Dr. Meyer, do you have any comments today?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hart. I do have some updates. The WMSC staff and I continue to have productive interactions with Metro Rail staff as we work together to identify and address a wide variety of safety issues. For example, in August, I reported to you that the WMSC found that some Metro Rail roadway workers in charge did not have the necessary documentation to support that they are properly qualified to establish and oversee roadway work zones safely and properly. After establishing the scope of this issue, ultimately the number was found to be 192 workers, the WMSC issued a standalone finding to Metro Rail on September 4th, which Metro Rail is actively working to address through corrective actions. While that work is ongoing, the WMSC also began a series of overnight inspections specifically to confirm roadway worker rules compliance. These WMSC inspections include observing the roadway worker protections for fixed work locations, which are under the control of the RICs, the roadway workers in charge. During these inspections, we're noting worker participation in safety briefings and checking to ensure that necessary measures are in place to keep workers safe. Last week, 2 teams conducted overnight observations on 2 different nights and found examples of personnel not conforming with WMATA's written RWP program requirements. The WMSC staff shared its observations with the appropriate personnel on scene, and in addition, all 4 inspection reports were provided to WMATA in a timely manner as required by the program standard. Next, also concerning RWP, the FTA regulatory requirement for an SSO-approved RWP program is December 2nd. That's about 6 weeks from today. Until Friday, WMATA's practice has been to submit some discrete elements of the required program in small batches with the WMSC, returning comments on those submissions within 14 days. On Friday, October 17th, WMATA submitted for the first time what so far appears to be a complete package of materials. That is the RWP program manual, as well as materials for the several different required trainings. The WMSC has had a longstanding interest in RWP because an RWP failure can have catastrophic consequences. We remain committed to ensuring a strong and effective RWP program at WMATA. Moving on to other program areas, last week we issued our elevator and escalator audit report. You'll hear about the specific safety findings and recommendation during Mr. O'Donnell's presentation later in today's meeting. And last, I want to introduce a new medium that the WMSC is rolling out to share highlights of our work. About every month, we'll release on social media and post to our website a short video highlighting our recent work. So we wanted to show you a small part of the first compilation.
What the WMSC did during the month of September and why it matters. The WMSC presented its audit of Metro Rail's control center and rail operations. On September 16th, the WMSC public meeting was held. The WMSC carried a total of 9 inspections during the month of September.
So that's just a brief excerpt of the video that we're planning sort of as our first bit of digital outreach. So if anyone has suggestions, we would appreciate hearing them. You can reach us at WMSC COMMS, that's WMSC comms at WMSC.gov. So we'd love to hear from you and stay tuned for more messages. So that concludes my remarks today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners for Dr. Meyer?
I see no hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Silva. Seeing none, we will now move on to our next item, which is audits, with an update from Mr. O'Donnell and Mr. Reddick. Mr. O'Donnell, Mr. Reddick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Hart. The WMSC is in the process of completing our third triennial cycle of audits. Each of these audits examines Metrorail's compliance with its Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan and associated requirements. This occurs on an ongoing basis over a 3-year period, which means that at any given time, several audits are occurring, but at different stages in the audit process. I'll provide an update on one completed audit and others that are underway today. As reported at the September public meeting, the 2024 Fitness for Duty and Occupational Health Programs audit has not yet progressed. WMATA has not responded to the WMSC's initial request when WMATA believes that worker safety information is responsive to that request. The WMSC is seeking relief through the enforcement of its subpoena for this information. I will now turn to the audit of elevators and escalators. The audit report for that audit was published on October 15th. As with every published audit, Metrorail had the opportunity to provide comments before the final publication. The WMSC then reviewed and considered all comments before finalizing our report. 3 of the 5 findings address worker safety, which is an important aspect of rail safety oversight. WMATA has until November 14th to provide corrective action plans in accordance with the program standard. We look forward to WMATA providing caps for each finding as required under the program standard and regulations, but also because it is the right thing found not following Metrorail's own procedures and guidelines.
The audit report outlines positive improvements, findings, and recommendations. John, can you walk us through the positive improvements?
Yes, the positive improvements. First, each of the Office of Elevator and Escalator Services journeymen and mechanics confirmed that new or replacement PPE is quickly provided by supervisors upon request without issue. Personnel who the WMSC observed in the field had the required PPE. Second, the elevator escalator safety risk coordinator was able to show ongoing receipt and review of hazards and the tracking of mitigations related to those hazards. The third positive finding noted that Metrorail has a formal job hazard analysis program and specifically has an analysis for each type of elevator and escalator work activity. These documents provide useful review of hazards prior to conducting work. Personnel must use the documentation provided, and compliance should be monitored to mitigate the hazards identified. Finally, the Office of Elevator and Escalator Services uses data it collects on downtime, time to repair, mean time between failure, and other attributes for each escalator and elevator to analyze issues and determine whether any rehabilitation or replacement projects are needed. Personnel were able to easily walk us through trend analysis and their department's use of that data.
The WMSC appreciates Metrorail's efforts on these demonstrated positive achievements, including the improvements in their safety management system. Now, turning to the findings, there are 5 findings and 2 recommendations. Each will be detailed in turn, along with some of their supporting evidence. The full audit report may be found at wmsc.gov under the Oversight heading. The first finding is that Metrorail elevators and escalators mechanics are not reviewing job hazard analyses as required by Metrorail procedures. Job hazard analyses are somewhat analogous to job safety briefings. John, can you walk us through the evidence for this finding?
Yes, Metrorail took positive steps to address a previous WMSC finding under Corrective Action Plan C0203, which aimed to address a prior finding that Metrorail was not clearly defining what helpers or entry-level elevator and escalator mechanical personnel are authorized to do or prohibited from doing. This earlier finding included whether helpers are permitted to work alone, have any restrictions required to ensure that the work is done safely. Through that cap, Metrorail established a job hazard analysis program. Metrorail created job hazard analyses for various types of elevator and escalator work, which includes preventative maintenance and repair. The job hazard analyses cover items such as communication of the task to be completed, securing the work area, planning the work, and completing the work. Job hazard analyses are designed to mitigate foreseeable hazards and include review of procedures, ensuring proper personnel protective equipment, checking for first aid kits, fire extinguishers, and other specific controls. For this audit, the WMSC observed 4 different work activities, which included elevator preventive maintenance and heavy repair. We did not observe job hazard analysis being reviewed at any of the 4 observations. During one of the observations, personnel stated that they conducted the review via telephone, but this is not in line with the job hazard analysis procedure.
The second finding of the audit is related to calibration. Specifically, Metro does not proactively monitor calibration expiration for elevator and escalator equipment.
Yeah, to expand upon that, Metrorail's approach to identifying equipment in need of calibration consists of managers, supervisors, and other personnel identifying equipment that requires calibration, such as dynamometers and torque wrenches, and removing it from use. Calibration ensures that the equipment is functioning as intended and performing accurate measurements or tasks. Proactive identification that prompts removal of equipment in need of calibration provides a layer of catchment to reduce the potential that expired equipment is used during maintenance, thereby undermining the maintenance work that has been done with the expired tools.
The third finding is that Metro personnel are entering elevator pits which have active electrical circuits with standing water present. The safety risks are evident in this finding statement. Water and electricity pose a significant hazard to personnel, especially when present together. John, can you provide more context?
Yes, elevator mechanics are required to enter the pits underneath elevators to complete vital preventive and corrective maintenance tasks. However, Metrorail's elevators can be subject to water intrusion issues depending on their surrounding environment. It is imperative that workers take safety precautions to protect themselves when those conditions exist. The 2020 Elevator Industry Field Employees Safety Handbook lists water as one of the several common hazards when working in elevator pits and advises taking appropriate steps to minimize these hazards and others that are identified, and goes further to state do not work in a pit with standing water. Metrorail's policy prohibits personnel from entering areas with standing water while electrical circuits are active. However, personnel reported entering areas with water at knee or waist deep depth that required pumping out of the pit. Personnel do not conduct voltage testing prior to entering the pit, and no specific PPE is provided to deal with water intrusion. Personnel should be trained on how to handle these situations properly.
The next finding is that Metrorail elevator and escalator personnel are not trained on fall protection requirements listed within its job hazard analyses.
Yes, as discussed previously, the job hazard analysis for traction elevator preventive maintenance, repair, service, and inspection states that personnel should utilize fall protection if needed. The job hazard analysis also lists other things such as lockout, tagout, jumper policy, confined space, and fall protection as required trainings. The current elevator and escalator department's training matrix includes a requirement for fall protection training for only one position, elevator and escalator heavy repair journeyman special projects. Other elevator and escalator personnel, such as journeyman technicians, master technicians, compliance managers, and compliance officers, are not trained on Metrorail's fall protection program or requirements. Metrorail must review the training requirements for all personnel who could be assigned to complete the work covered by that job hazard analysis.
And the last finding is that Metrorail is not maintaining or displaying escalator, or elevator certificates on site as required by local jurisdictions.
Yes, the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia all require that a member of the public be able to verify that inspections have been carried out. Each has a slightly different requirement to accomplish this, but Metro is not adhering to all those requirements. At all 14 stations visited, spread across all 3 jurisdictions, a notice is posted in each elevator that directs individuals to the station kiosk to view the elevator certificate. Although there is some allowance for viewing at the kiosk, none of the station managers encountered at the 14 stations were able to show or produce a certificate for the equipment located at that station.
And there are also 2 recommendations from this audit. Recommendation 1 is that metro elevator and escalator job descriptions are incomplete and a subset do not reflect current job responsibilities. John, can you elaborate?
Yes, to provide some background on this issue and this recommendation, a prior recommendation from the WMSC's 2022 safety audit of station maintenance, elevators, and escalators identified that Metrorail has effective training instructors for Ellis personnel. However, their experience does not match the written requirements for those positions. To address this prior recommendation, Metrorail created Corrective Action Plan C209, which included reviewing and updating job descriptions to reflect the actual requirements of the role, including experience and expertise in the subject area. Metrorail revised job descriptions accordingly, and that cap was subsequently closed on March 9th, 2023. Since the closure of C209, Metrorail has changed the way it manages and formats job descriptions. And as a result, the newer job descriptions are missing certain information, such as lack of designations for noting items as directly related to essential function, lack of completion of fields, noting whether personnel carry a mission essential worker designation, and master LS technicians are noted as not responsible for supervising others, but one of the later duties is the ability to provide leadership or instruct and review work of lower level mechanics, acting as a supervisory duty. Although the continuing work related to updating and improving the job descriptions is a positive step, the job description should be thoroughly reviewed for accuracy and corrected where necessary.
And switching to recommendation 2, this identified that Metro's Office of Elevators and Escalator Services uses multiple systems to capture data, which could impair data management and result in discrepancies.
Yes, and to expand upon that, Metrorail personnel in the field are regularly using the virtual elevator and escalator operations center system to request, open, and edit and input data into Maximo work orders. This is done via mobile phone in the field by maintenance or inspection personnel, either via text or phone calls to the vertical transportation center staff. Vertical transportation center staff then take the information, transcribe it into Maximo work orders. Personnel reported that there have been transcription issues with this practice, and it is unclear to personnel in the field are entering their results or findings directly. Personnel in the field would benefit from being able to enter data in their own words, as they are the ones in charge of conducting that work. This concludes our comments on the findings and recommendations from the elevator and escalator audit. We'll now pause for questions.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Conklin?
Has raised his hand.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. It looks like the audit was focused mostly on maintenance procedures and the question of the certificate. Did you notice any elevator escalator hazards that were an imminent threat to the public using the system during this audit?
No, I would not say that we witnessed anything like that that would be an imminent threat or anything like that.
Thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah, of course.
I see no other hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davis, please continue.
John, could you provide an update on the other audits that remain in progress?
Yes, the next update is on the communication system audit. The draft report was sent to Metrorail yesterday for its 30-day review and comment period. Moving to the next audit after that, the track structures and roadway worker protection audit. The report is currently being drafted and is expected to be sent to Metrorail next month. The next audit after that is the audit of Metrorail's internal safety review and internal review programs, which is in its final stages. Interviews and observations are complete, and we are reviewing additional documents that were provided by Metrorail last week. An exit conference with Metrorail is planned for early November for that audit. Lastly, we are also preparing for our next audit, which will cover both revenue vehicles, also known as Class 1 vehicles, and roadway maintenance machines, Class 2 vehicles. The notification and initial request for that audit will go to Metrorail in November as scheduled. Thank you. That completes this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell and Mr. Raddick. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. O'Donnell and Mr. Raddick?
See no hands, Chair.
Okay, seeing none, the next item on the agenda is corrective action plans or CAPS. We will now take up this item with Ms. Rhodes and Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chair Hart. We currently have 73 open corrective action plans with 20 in development. The 20 CAPs in development include 11 CAPs from our Control Center and Rail Operations Audit. The WMSC sent our first round of feedback to WMATA on October 10th, 2025, following receiving the first draft proposals for these CAPs, which included WMSC approval of one CAP as proposed. WMATA's second round of revised draft CAP proposals based on this feedback is due to the WMSC by October 24th, 2025. Additionally, there are 7 CAPs in development associated with our recently released elevator and escalators audit, which Mr. O'Donnell mentioned in the previous discussion section on audits. That audit report was released just last week on October 15th, 2025. First round CAP draft proposals from WMATA for these CAPs are due to the WMSC for review by November 14th, 2025. The final 2 remaining draft CAPs are ones which have been held up in their development in accordance with WMATA's ongoing legal challenge of the WMSC's oversight of occupational safety-related issues. These are CAPs C0255 from our 2024 ATC and Signals Audit, and CAP C0272 from our 2024 Revenue Vehicles Audit regarding employee exposure to materials containing asbestos and a lack of adequate fall protection, respectively. One notable CAP that was approved since the last public meeting is C0310, which was proposed and reviewed on an expedited timeline per the urgent nature of the issue identified, which was a lack of adherence to requirements for certification of personnel following their Level 4 RWP training. After multiple rounds of exchanged feedback, the WMSC approved this CAP on September 30th, 2025. Each CAP has milestones that are called actionable items. Metrorail submits those actionable items on the agreed-upon schedule defined by the CAP. In practice, this means the WMSC receives actionable items every week on a subset of CAPs. WMSC personnel are assigned to review these submittals as they are received, including review by subject matter experts. We review CAP submittals as they come in, and then again, all together, once all items have been submitted, to review the overall CAP progress as a holistic improvement.
Thank you, Ashley. When all the actionable items of a CAP have been completed, Metrorail submits that CAP for closure review. We look at each actionable item along with an overall view of the finding and minimum corrective action to assure that CAP has achieved its goals. Today, we have 4 CAPs to report on that have achieved the final closure milestone since our last public meeting, each of which constitutes a completed safety improvement. Ms. Rhodes, can you start with the discussion on CAP C189?
CAP C189 resulted from a finding from our 2021 Rail Operations Audit, which found that Metrorail was not ensuring personnel serving as on-the-job training instructors, such as line platform instructors, had specific training on what to teach and how to assess their students. I'll ask Mr. Bruce Walker to explain a bit about this CAP and what a line platform instructor does and their role in training. Bruce?
Thank you, Ms. Rhodes. So Metrorail uses the on-the-job training, or OJT, for operational positions such as rail vehicle operators, station managers, terminal supervisors, and interlocking operators. Line platform instructors, or LPIs, are personnel assigned to train rail vehicle operators and station managers via the on-the-job training. So when conducting the 2021 rail operations audit, it was found that Metrorail did not have job descriptions for the line platform instructors. It did not conduct any supervisory oversight of LPIs and did not have specific tasks that LPIs are supposed to conduct or oversee in their students.
Thanks, Bruce. Could you discuss how they resolved the overall issue of evaluating LPIs?
Sure. So, based on that finding, Metro created LPI training and evaluation processes, including creating new training materials. So, this work also included the creation of job descriptions and an SOP or standard operating procedure on the hiring and promotion process for those wanting to become line platform instructors. So, personnel were trained on how to evaluate LPI performance as well. Metrorail also did an analysis of student success rate for the training that was created per this CAP, and that analysis showed actions that Metrorail could make in addition to, like adjustments to increase effectiveness of training and feedback for LPIs like student trainer pairing consistency.
Thank you for that, Bruce and Ashley.
Sure.
Can we move on to CAP C0230, Ashley?
Sure. Thanks, John. Thanks, Bruce. C230 resulted from a finding from our 2022 audit of track and structures. The finding noted that Metrorail was not completing sufficient rail grinding activities across the system to ensure safe operations.
And why is rail grinding important across the system?
Rail grinding is an important process used to maintain the integrity and to extend useful life of the running rails. Rail grinding removes small amounts of metal from the top of the rail, which removes irregularities and defects, and that reduces wear on and risk to rail cars. Our 2022 Track and Structures audit report that identified this issue also cited a 2019 APTA peer review of Metrorail, which also raised this issue of Metrorail lacking sufficient rail grinding per industry standards.
Thank you. Could you discuss the actions taken to address this gap?
Yes. Metrorail created a funding plan and awarded a contract for rail grinding services. From there, an in-depth schedule was created covering the locations, distances, dates, and rail grinding unit to be used for the scheduled work, as well as the anticipated number of passes, patterns and speed, and equipment settings to be used for each section of track. We reviewed 12 months of implementation records following the creation of this schedule, which showed all required rail grinding was being completed as planned per their schedule.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Could we now move on to reviewing closed cap C0243?
Yes, this CAP addressed a finding from our 2023 audit of roadway maintenance machines, which found Metrorail did not have a process or assigned resources to inspect and maintain high rail gear on high rail vehicles owned by WMATA as required to ensure the vehicle's safe operation.
Okay, so discussing those resources, was this work done in-house or was this something that was contracted?
This was contracted out. Metrorail awarded a high rail equipment service contract covering several years. The WMSC reviewed a full year of implementation records to verify that this work was being properly completed and reviewed by WMATA, and determined this was indeed being sufficiently done. As with all CAPs, we will continue to monitor this through future inspections and audits.
Thank you, Ashley. And could we move on to the next cap, cap C0244?
Yes, like C243, this CAP also originated from our 2023 audit of roadway maintenance machines, or RMMs. This finding was on procedures, specifically that Metrorail was not reviewing its roadway maintenance machine-related procedures as required.
Could you walk us first through the requirements, what wasn't being met, and how that was addressed?
Yes. Metrorail's procedures require that these procedural documents are reviewed every 2 years to ensure their accuracy. Metrorail reviewed their existing RMM-related procedures per this CAP and found that 7 documents required review and update, all of which were then completed and submitted for review as a part of this CAP effort. Beyond that, processes were put into place to assign responsibility and maintain a document update tracking matrix. Metrorail is also working to remove their manual process for document review requirement tracking to replace that with an automated system.
Thank you for that and all the review of the closed caps, Ashley. This concludes our remarks on caps.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, Mr. O'Donnell, and Ms. Rhodes. Are there any questions from the commissioners for any of the three?
See no raised hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tilbaugh. Seeing none, we will now hear updates on the WMSC's Safety Certification Oversight Program from the WMSC Director, Systems and Engineering, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, can you please provide that update?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Today, I will provide updates on several safety certification projects, as well as other topics of engagement with WMATA, including automatic train operations performance, the 8000 series rail cars, the rail traffic controller button controller consolidation project, the automated wayside inspection system project, and ongoing follow-up related to excessive vibration conditions experienced by riders. Let me start with ATO performance. Station overruns and automatic train operations are a closely tracked item. Over the last 90 days, there have been 108 overruns on the red line, 94 overruns across the green and yellow lines, and 325 overruns across the blue, orange, and silver lines. While WMATA continues to respond to each event individually, these totals underscore the continuing need for system-level improvements and a better understanding of the conditions leading to these occurrences. We've prepared some charts for today's meeting showing data by line and station. This helps visualize where these events are occurring and how patterns are changing over time. And we continue to work closely with WMATA's ATO governance team, reviewing data and evaluating which mitigation strategies are having the greatest impact. These efforts also include examination of the underlying automatic train control infrastructure to ensure reliability and safe operation in ATO by conducting train control room inspections. Zooming in a bit, we've identified the top 15 stations with the most overruns during the same 90-day period. This type of breakdown helps pinpoint localized issues, for instance, in our factors such as station grade, approach speeds, or train control logic affecting performance. And by focusing on these locations, WMATA and the WMSC can target improvements and measure how well those efforts are working over time. At our last meeting, a commissioner asked about the suburban Virginia stations on the Silver Line, noting that it's the newest part of the system, and asked whether its design or operating characteristics, such as being mostly above ground or allowing for higher speed operating speeds, might influence the number of station overruns. The question also asked whether, given its newer infrastructure and equipment, we should expect it to perform better both from a signaling standpoint and in ATO performance. These are great questions and tie into one of the continuing challenges WMATA has faced with the ATO system, particularly the onboard components installed on the 7000 series railcars. Those railcars make up most of the ATO fleet and have been responsible for the majority of overrun events due to onboard software and calibration issues. WMATA is addressing these challenges through updates to the onboard software, such as the upcoming 6.2 version of software, and by improving maintenance practices like antenna normalization and post-maintenance verification to achieve more stable and consistent ATO performance. To directly answer the question, our deep dive into Silverline data shows that while there have been some station overruns in the suburban Virginia areas, they are not occurring at a rate that suggests a systemic or location-specific issue. Over the past 90 days, WMATA's data shows a total of 20 station overruns along the suburban Virginia Silver Line, with 12 of those at Loudon Gateway Station and a smaller number at Ashburn, Dulles Airport, Greensboro, Tyson, and Herndon. This segment features longer distances between stations, higher operating speeds, and several elevated or curved track sections. Those factors can influence ATO braking profiles and stopping precision, especially when combined with the ongoing software and calibration refinements on the 7000 series fleet. However, the data does not show anything uniquely problematic about this segment of the Silver Line. Instead, it reinforces that the interplay between grade, speed, and station spacing can influence how ATO responds in certain environments, and that improvements in the software logic and maintenance consistency will continue to help WMATA fine-tune performance system-wide. The WMSC will continue to monitor this area to identify any emerging trends or localized issues, but at this point, we do not view it as a particular concern. In parallel, we continue to engage with WMATA on broader engineering evaluations, including the potential effects of electromagnetic interference and approach behavior at terminal stations, and updates to ATO software designed to improve stopping accuracy and reduce overruns. We are also conducting field verification through our train control room inspections and maintenance record reviews to assess how system health is being managed. As part of our ongoing monitoring, I want to touch briefly on how WMATA is currently managing train performance in the field. Right now, WMATA is using what are known as temporary control plans, or TCPs. These plans adjust the automatic train protection speed codes and reduce entry speeds at certain stations to help minimize the risk of station overruns, while the broader ATO system improvements continue to be evaluated. Before 2009, WMATA used performance levels to manage some of the imperfections of ATO, such as station overruns. However, performance levels, which are a component of the automatic train supervision system, are a non-vital control and therefore cannot be relied upon for safety-critical control. In its investigation in the 1996 Shady Grove crash, the National Transportation Safety Board highlighted how reliance on these non-vital controls can contribute to a safety event. Learning from that event, we have advised Metro against the use of non-vital controls for managing train movement and stopping. Instead, Metro has been diving into the variables that affect train stopping. One such variable is the rail cars themselves. Differences in braking performance, propulsion response, weight distribution, and calibration factors across rail car series can influence how precisely a train stops at a platform. For example, variations in brake buildup, time, or propulsion delay can result in inconsistent stopping distances, even under identical track and signal conditions. Metro has been analyzing these inter-series differences, including how newer rail cars interact with ATO commands compared to the legacy fleet. This work is critical to understanding the limits of automation and ensuring that train stopping behavior remains predictable and safe across all operating conditions. WMATA has begun testing the onboard software version 6.2 for the 7000 series rail cars. This updated version incorporates fixes to the antenna normalization process, specifically addressing how certain calibration values are retained in memory. Under the current configuration, the antenna normalization process itself completes successfully. However, the noise floor value, one component of that process, is stored in volatile memory, and as a result, that single value is lost whenever a rail car is power cycled, while the other normalization parameters are retained in the non-volatile memory. The forthcoming software version 6.2 relocates that noise floor value into a non-volatile memory, ensuring that it is preserved through power cycles and eliminating the need for repeated renormalization after each startup. This change is intended to improve consistency across railcar operations and reduce variability in automatic train operation performance and enhance the overall reliability of the ATO system. They plan to begin fielding this version 6.2 across the 7000 series fleet during the last quarter of 2025, and early testing suggests this update could reduce station overruns by approximately 35 to 40%, pending verification of field performance. As further context, the 7000 series railcars make up roughly 60% of WMATA's active fleet, and about 3/4 of the current station overruns involve the 7000 series trains. Therefore, targeted updates to this fleet has the potential for a system-wide impact, and based upon the recent data of approximately 490 overruns in the past 90 days, this software improvement could translate to roughly 130 to 150 fewer overruns over a similar period once the update is fully deployed and performing as intended. The WMSC will be overseeing these updates to verify if the early testing results translate into operational results. In parallel, the original equipment manufacturer has begun development of version 6.3, which will introduce further refinements aimed at improving stability, responsiveness, and overall ATO performance. We will be reviewing WMATA's test documentation and will independently verify that these software updates deliver the intended safety and performance benefits without introducing new risks. These activities form a core part of our oversight program, ensuring that each observed trend or anomaly is addressed through rigorous engineering and operational review. I will pause for any questions or comments about ATO at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yes, Chair Hart.
Please.
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Smith, and that is, understand the station overruns. Is there a definition of the severity of those overruns? In other words, when one is on Metro Rail and the area where you have to get off, is the train going beyond the first door where passengers depart?
From WMATA's perspective, I think the station overrun is when the car is past the 8-car marker at the end of the platform. So, but these station overruns are occurring. Sometimes they're the entire consist of the rail car. Not every time, but in certain occasions they do pass the station 8-car marker by the full length of the train.
Thank you.
Seeing no other hands, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, please proceed.
All right, thank you, Chair Hart. Next, I will provide an update on the 8000 series railcar project. The WMSC has selected this project for in-depth safety certification review. In the United States, railcars are expected to have a service life of approximately 40 years, and it is therefore important for that investment to be well made and to look at safety comprehensively. The WMSC continues to monitor WMATA's progress on the safety certification of the 8000 series railcars. And to date, the WMSC has reviewed limited documentation related to the 8000 series preliminary design review. Metro has provided us with a list of documents with a stated relevance to safety certification. For the documents WMATA has deemed relevant to safety certification, Metro does not plan to provide those to the WMSC until April or July 2026 timeframe. Examples of these not yet provided documents include the systems integration test plan, the engineering change proposal packages, and requests for deviations to technical specifications. Several other items, including the program management plan, the master program schedule, and configuration management plan, are designated as outside the formal safety certification scope, but remain relevant to oversight of schedule and configuration control. Other documents, including the systems engineering plan and electromagnetic compatibility, radio frequency interference, electromagnetic interference design and control plan, emergency lighting functional description, the training plan, and summary level schedule are listed as closed, but will still undergo WMSC verification for completeness. WMATA's failure to provide key documents means the WMSC cannot complete an appropriate safety certification review. Our in-depth review aims to track WMATA's own safety certification process to verify it identified hazards and hazard mitigations, confirmed traceability, and validated safety critical system performance. WMATA has indicated that the final versions of key deliverables, such as the subsystem interface documentation, reliability, availability, and maintainability analysis, and braking and propulsion system parameters, are not expected until Q2 2026. The Railcar Independent Penetration Test Finding Report is not expected until late 2028, prior to the pilot car conditional acceptance. The WMSC regularly reminds WMATA that the WMSC cannot do its safety certification oversight without these documents, and we will continue to track document submission, review new materials as they are received, and ensure that each safety critical element is independently confirmed prior to the WMSC's concurrence for 8000 series railcars to enter passenger service. Another WMATA project that the WMSC has selected for in-depth review is the Rail Traffic Controller Radio and Button Controller Consolidation Project. On October 1st, WMSC staff attended a workshop hosted by WMATA on this project. This project focuses on transitioning rail traffic controller operations from a shared model where two controllers jointly manage train movement to a configuration in which a single controller has command and control functions within the designated area. WMATA believes this change will streamline communication, reduce handoff errors, and improve situational awareness within the control center. WMSC staff also attended the WMATA training on October 17th, which provided an opportunity to observe the new single controller configuration in action and review the associated operational and human factor considerations. WMATA has also shared a newly updated standard operating procedure, which now incorporates the use of a rail traffic controller support personnel role. The support role is intended to assist the primary controller during periods of high workload or operational complexity when a rail traffic controller becomes overburdened with command and control responsibilities. The RTC support individual can provide assistance with administrative tasks such as completing Maximo tickets, handling required documentation, and answering incoming phone calls. At this stage, the consolidation effort applies only to the Ops 4 desk, which covers the Orange and Silver Line territory from Clarendon to Vienna and Ashburn end-of-line stations. This area serves as the pilot area for this new operating model. The WMSC's focus remains on verifying that WMATA has conducted the safety certification process for this project, including identification of all relevant hazards, provisions of adequate training for both RTCs whose roles and responsibilities have changed on the Ops 4 control desk, and preparation of their supervisors, who will be responsible for recognizing when an RTC may require additional support. The WMSC will continue to monitor WMATA's implementation of this new structure, including any adjustments that result from the training or post-deployment feedback. Switching to another project that the WMSC has selected for in-depth review, the automated wayside inspection system. Several members of WMSC staff attended a training session hosted by WMATA and conducted by KLD, the contractor responsible for the installation and deployment of the automated wayside inspection system. The training introduced participants to the system's configuration, functionality, and the data processing framework. KLD presented the use of the system and the information collected within the train-based platform, which serves as the database for tracking and reporting wheel parameter exceptions. The AWIS system identifies exceptions based on predefined wheel parameters, thresholds established by WMATA, and automatically generates reports for engineering and maintenance review. This training provided WMSC staff with greater understanding of how the system identifies anomalies, reports exceptions, and integrates into WMATA's vehicle maintenance processes. WMSC will continue to review how WMATA implements and validates the AWIS system and ensures that its integration supports effective monitoring of wheel conditions and safe vehicle operations. This includes assessing how AWIS data is used to inform maintenance decisions, detect anomalies, and support real-time operational safety. WMATA has indicated that it expects to realize full implementation of AWIS around Q2 of 2026. As that target approaches, we will monitor not only the deployment, but also how WMATA ensures the system's outputs are actionable and integrated into its safety assurance processes. Before I close, I want to give an update on the excessive vibration issues that have been discussed in previous public meetings. Although we have not received any new reports from the public since the last meeting, we remain engaged with WMATA on this issue, which involves reviewing potential vehicle, track, and wheel interaction factors that may contribute to elevated vibration levels at higher speeds. One recent example observed by WMSC staff helps illustrate the issue. On October 1st, during a Silver Line trip, a WMSC staff member reported a noticeable knocking noise beginning just after the train passed the K&N junction between East Falls Church and West Falls Church stations, which continued all the way to Wheel, Reston East Station. When WMATA inspected the car at issue, they found out-of-round wheel conditions and performed multiple undercar inspections, replacing one leveling valve and 3 shock absorbers, and adjusted the front coupler height. After these repairs, the train was sent out for a track test between West Falls Church and Vienna. However, the results indicated that the car was still vibrating at higher speeds, and WMATA noted that it needs further work. This case confirmed that the vibration reported by WMSC staff was valid and that the initial corrective actions did not fully resolve the issue. It also underscores the need for continued monitoring and analysis to identify root causes and verify the effectiveness of WMATA's maintenance responses. WMATA's engineering team continues to analyze these conditions, and the WMSC expects to receive a detailed engineering report from WMATA by October 31st, 2025. The WMSC will review the findings and determine whether further oversight action or field verifications are warranted. Thank you, Chair Hart. That concludes this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. Smith?
I see Commissioner Conklin has his hand up.
Yes,
Sure,
please.
I had a couple questions, Mr. Smith. On this vibration concern, I've had other residents and folks who are regular Metro riders report this on the red line as well. I was curious whether, obviously it's uncomfortable and raises psychological concerns about safety, but are there any safety related consequences of this vibration that we should be thinking about, like loosening equipment on the rail car or anything like that?
Not meaning to jump
you've
in
thought
in
about
front
so
of
far?
Mr. Smith, but I think this is exactly why we're interested in studying the phenomenon so that we can rule out whether or not there are any safety concerns. As I've heard our chair say before, vibration is the bane of any sort of mechanical equipment. So in addition to concerns that might exist in the moment of such vibrations, we're also concerned about any impact they might have on the equipment that's longer term. But I didn't mean to steal your comments, Mr. Smith.
No, thank you, Dr. Meyer. I think that's exactly right. We continue to stay engaged on this to figure out, are there any safety concerns with these vibrations, long-term as well as short-term concerns, and that's why we've continued to, talk with WMATA and their engineering staff to get this final report and see if there's any actions that need to be taken.
I have more of a concern than a question. I just wanted to mention on your 8000 series rail car activity. My understanding is that there's a schedule established for these cars to arrive and become in service, and there are different ways to go about the certification. I mean, one, it sounds like what you're attempting to do is to review information as it's developed so that you can provide more instantaneous feedback. But I'm concerned that if you're not able to do that, then you may find information that's provided to you later on in the development process, and it's going to be harder for the manufacturer and Metro to address any concerns that might be identified at that stage. I'm just curious whether that tracks with the way you're approaching this, or if you have different thoughts on that.
No, that's exactly correct, Commissioner Conklin. We would like to be engaged in the process as early as possible so that we can avoid any delays or cost, changes to the project. We feel like our involvement early on in the project would be more beneficial to both Hitachi and WMATA, or the contractor and WMATA. However, at this stage, we're not receiving that documentation.
I guess I'll just express that I'm hopeful that that information can make its way to you so that there isn't an unfortunate discovery later on in the design development process.
I agree with that as well, Commissioner Conklin. Thank you for those comments.
Any further questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. Smith?
See no further hands.
Okay, thank you. In that case, we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is safety event investigations. We will hear presentations on all of the reports and then consider a single motion on all of them collectively. If any commissioner wishes to remove a report from the group that we will consider as a single vote, please indicate that at the end of the presentation of the report. Mr. Quigley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Investigations Whiskey 399 through 401 involved collisions resulting in serious injuries. Whiskey 399 occurred on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 at approximately 4:30 p.m. An individual intentionally entered the roadway at Benning Road Station and was struck by a train as it entered the platform limits. The operator applied emergency braking and stopped with one car at the platform, notified the rail traffic controller. Third rail power was de-energized and the riders were all floated through the lead car. Metro Transit Police and DC Fire and EMS extricated the individual and transported them to a hospital in critical but stable condition. Post-incident checks found no equipment or infrastructure damage, and the operator's actions were consistent with the procedure. In accordance with policy, the operator was removed from service for testing, post-accident testing, and the train was moved to West Falls Churchyard for post-incident inspection before service was restored. The second collision before you today, investigation Whiskey 400, occurred on Saturday, December 14th, 2024. CCTV shows an individual entering Gallery Place, Chinatown at 8:38 p.m. After speaking with security, a rail operations supervisor allowed the person through a fare gate. The individual proceeded to the Red Line platform at 8:47 p.m. and deliberately entered the roadway as the train arrived. The operator immediately notified the rail traffic controller. Riders were all floated and third rail power was de-energized at 8:51 p.m. Metro Transit Police and DC Fire and EMS responded, confirmed power was taken down, and at 9:08 p.m. removed the individual who was transported with non-life-threatening injuries. The probable cause was the person's intentional trespass onto the rail right-of-way, placing themselves directly in the path of the train. In accordance with procedures, the operator was relieved for post-incident testing and the train was removed from service for inspection. No equipment or infrastructure damage was reported. On to the next one, investigation Whiskey 401 occurred on Thursday, January 23rd, 2025 at approximately 3:45 p.m. The patron using a motorized wheelchair moved past the platform edge at Anacostia Station and fell into the roadway between the running rails as a train entered the station. The operator initiated emergency braking and immediately notified the rail traffic controller. Rail traffic was held, third rail power was de-energized, and rail operations supervisors and station managers assisted with controlled offload of the riders. DC Fire and EMS established unified command, confirmed the power was down, and began a rescue operation. The patron was extricated at 4:07 p.m. and transported to a hospital. Their condition was described as critical but stable. Following the rescue, emergency response personnel cleared the roadway and removed the wheelchair and debris. The incident train was moved to Branch Avenue Yard for post-incident inspection, and normal service resumed on track 1 after the scene was cleared. The probable cause was the patron's inadvertent entry into the roadway, resulting from a loss of control or issue with the motorized wheelchair, which caused the fall onto the right-of-way and make contact with the train. I'll pause for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners about these two reports?
Not seeing any hands, Chair.
Well, I didn't understand why the station supervisor allowed that person access. Would you explain what that was all about?
Was that I think that was Whiskey 400. We're talking about the station manager or
I think
supervisor.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, they just that's when they the station was open. They had just talked to that individual before they entered like downstairs into the platform.
And
the station wasn't closed or anything.
So
it was
the
just
purpose
some
of
interaction. Yeah, it was just interactions they had.
So I'm trying to understand, why did this person have a right to be let through the gate? Unless I'm not understanding what happened.
Yeah, they maybe their payment wasn't working for some reason. They had a conversation with the station manager and they just let them in through the gate.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Quigley?
No
Okay.
other hands.
Pardon?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. Please proceed, Mr. Quigley.
I think I'm up, Chair Hart.
You up next? Oh, okay. Please proceed. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Investigation Whiskey 0402 occurred on Friday, August 16th, 2024 at approximately 2:57 p.m. CCTV at Capitol Heights Station recorded a customer attempting to climb the fare gates. The customer lost balance, fell from the mezzanine, and landed in the roadway. The station manager was alerted, immediately halted train movements, and at 2:59 p.m., third rail power on track 1 was de-energized. The control center notified the fire department and Metro Transit Police. The fire department arrived and removed the customer from the roadway for transport to a hospital. Post-incident review of CCTV and response actions identified procedural issues during the rescue. Fire department personnel entered the roadway without independently verifying third rail power was de-energized by hot stick or awaiting WSOD placement. And a rail supervisor was observed conducting a hot stick verification without required high voltage gloves, contrary to WMATA PPE rules. The probable cause of this serious injury event was a customer attempting to climb the fare gates, which led to a loss of balance and fall into the track area. Injuries resulted from the fall. Normal service was restored after the roadway was cleared and power was re-energized. Investigation Whiskey 0403 occurred on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025 at 2:57 p.m. There was an active fire alarm at Forest Glen Station, which activated the station's fire curtains. The control center notified Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services along with MTPD. Emergency ventilation fans were activated and trains were instructed to bypass the station in accordance with procedures. 12 customers were safely evacuated by train or via elevator with a rail operations supervisor assistance. The station elevators were then placed in bypass override mode per life safety protocol. The fire department and WMATA responders inspected the platform and ancillary rooms and found no active fire. The haze self-dissipated prior to the fire department's arrival, and subsequent track inspections by rail vehicle operators and the emergency response team found no ongoing smoke condition. With the station cleared, normal service resumed at 4:14 p.m. No injuries were reported. The probable cause was smoke emitted from debris on the track bed lights, which entered the station and triggered the alarm. The response followed established procedures for life safety events, including controlled evacuation, ventilation management, and temporary service adjustments. Investigation Whiskey 0404 occurred on Saturday, October 19th, 2024. The Swingmaster High Rail Crane SMO4 departed a work zone from College Park Station and shortly before Greenbelt Station experienced a hydraulic leak and then derailed onto the third rail. At 5:22 a.m., the roadway worker in charge notified the control center. Third rail power was de-energized and a ground walk-around confirmed the derailment with hydraulic fluid leaking from a broken tilt cylinder. Emergency response team and car track equipment maintenance or CTEM personnel responded. CTEM personnel found the boom tote lodged in the ground, the mechanical boom lock in its stowed position, turret rotated off the center line, significant damage to the boom assembly, the tilt rod separated from the cylinder piston, and hydraulic fluid leaking from the broken tilt cylinder. CTEM personnel capped the hydraulic lines, secured the boom, and added hydraulic oil to the unit. SMO4 was re-railed at 7:31 a.m. and routed to Greenbelt Yard. Damage included approximately 90 feet of misaligned track, damage to 8 cross ties, 4 third rail insulators, third rail cover boards, and ballast. Third rail required reinstallation over roughly 30 feet. SMO4 sustained structural damage to the hydraulic cylinder, boom, and undercarriage. The equipment operator was removed from service for post-incident testing. The probable cause was unintentional movement of the joystick, which dropped the boom into the track bed and precipitated the derailment. Contributing to the event was the operator's noncompliance with procedure. The hydraulic system was not disabled, and the turret and arm locks were not deployed, measures that would have prevented the boom movement. Investigators could not verify the position of the joystick-enabled disable switch at the moment of the incident. Corrective actions included refresher training for the equipment operator, system-wide installation of cameras and digital video recorders on Swingmasters with a data logger project in design, and the specification of triggered-enabled joysticks that require deliberate activation to move hydraulic booms. Thank you. That completes this presentation.
Thank you. Am I speaking to Ms. Quiros, right?
Yes.
I don't have the, okay, thank you. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners for Ms. Quiros for these events?
See no hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I think it's this one is yours as well, Ms. Key Rose.
I think Mr.
That's it.
Quigley is next.
Yep,
There you go.
Actually mine. Thank you, Chair Hart. Investigation Whiskey 405 involves an improper roadway protection event that occurred on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, between Capitol Heights and Addison Road stations. A work crew began a walking track inspection after the roadway worker in charge, the RIC, requested permission and was instructed by the radio rail traffic controller to verify the AMF was in place. The track inspection was being performed on track 1 between Benning Road and Addison Road Station, and then returning to Benning Road Station on track number 2. The RIC briefed their work crew, including AMFs, before the work began, however, changed the track order after the briefing was completed, notifying only AMF number 1 of the change. The AMF reported being in place at Benning Road track number 2, while AMF protection was actually required at Addison Road for the direction of travel. Neither the RIC nor the RTC, the rail traffic controller, identified this location discrepancy before authorizing the inspection. At 10:47 a.m., the operator of train 414 reported passing a work crew on track number 2 approaching Capitol Heights with no AMF at Addison Road. The RTC's initial radio calls to the RIC went unanswered. The RTC then confirmed with train 620 at Addison Road that no AMF was present and directed the crew to stand clear for a pickup. At 10:54 a.m., train 620 removed the crew from the roadway and returned them to Capitol Heights. There were no injuries or damage. The probable cause was a failure by the RIC and the RTC to confirm AMF placement at the required location before granting and accepting permission to begin the inspection. Contributing factors include the RIC's change to the work plan that was not communicated to all personnel and a loss of situational awareness by both field and control personnel. Because AMF protection was not established at Addison Road, an approaching train operated at its regulated speed rather than the 35-mile-an-hour restriction that applies under AMF protection. In accordance with policy, the RIC, the AMF, and the radio rail traffic controller were removed from service for post-incident testing and investigation. I'll pause for any questions on this one.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this report?
No hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I can't tell from my script who's next.
I got you. Don't worry, sir. The final report before you today is Investigation Whiskey 406, which involves an improper rail vehicle movement. On Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, at approximately 5:24 a.m., train 612, which was a non-revenue train, entered the D&G Junction Pocket track near Stadium Armory Station. The D&G Junction is an aerial junction northeast of Stadium Armory Station that includes a pocket or third track where orange line tracks merge with silver and blue line tracks. The radio rail traffic controller issued a permissive block at 5:15 a.m. and instructed the operator to reverse ends and hold at red signal Delta 9844. After stopping short of clearing the interlocking, the operator lost contact with the RTC while walking through the train. When communication resumed around 5:21 a.m., the rail traffic controller again directed the operator to return to the Stadium Armory end, car 7168, and use the coast to car wash function to creep forward to clear the interlocking. Instead, at 5:23 a.m., the operator misunderstood the instruction, failed to provide a correct repeatback, and moved the train through red signal Delta 9844 and against the normal flow of traffic on track number 2 towards Minnesota Avenue, traveling about 210 feet before stopping on the rail traffic controller's order. There were no passengers aboard and no injuries. The rail traffic controller then directed the operator to key down, reverse ends, back into the pocket, and await assistance. SAFE and a rail transportation supervisor boarded the train, which was later routed to New Carrollton Yard for inspection. The probable cause was the operator's failure to follow procedure and maintain effective communication, including an incorrect repeatback that led to movement past the red signal and into the wrong way block. The rail traffic controller's actions were also reviewed in connection with communication quality during the event. In accordance with policy, both the operator and the RTC were removed from service for post-incident testing. As a corrective measure, the operator received additional training and observation. Metrorail is in the process of implementing related WMSC required corrective action plans, including CAP 0183, which addresses the finding that Metrorail creates safety risks by not requiring and conducting territory familiarization and physical characteristics training and not assessing knowledge of physical characteristics prior to assigning operations personnel work on a line, in a terminal, or in a yard. The scheduled completion date is December 2026. Also, we have CAP 306, which will address the 2025 Control Center and Rail Operations Audit finding that Metrorail personnel are not following Metrorail radio transmissions, such as for train identification and location information. That completes this presentation. I'll wait for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners regarding these reports?
Commissioner Conklin's raised his hand.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I don't have a question about the specifics of these reports, but is there any logic to the grouping of these reports? Sometimes our presentations seem thematic or date-driven, and this one seems like a collection of unrelated events.
Yeah, sometimes we have to go back and forth a few times with the safety department to get, our comments addressed, or we're waiting for additional information when it comes to corrective actions if they've been completed, or it takes a while maybe to get a corrective action in place. So it's just these have taken a little bit longer to kind of finalize and get to where we were, comfortable presenting them.
Okay. So many of them are stories we've seen before, similar.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the commissioners regarding any of these reports?
See no other hands raised.
Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the investigation reports that have just been presented, which is Whiskey 0399 through Whiskey 0406? Is there a motion to adopt?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed, please raise your hand and say nay.
Chair, the vote is 5 yeas and 0 nays. The safety inspection investigation reports are adopted as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. The next item on our agenda is consideration of 3 resolutions that Dr. Meyer mentioned to you in his opening remarks. First, we will discuss the draft fiscal year 2027 budget and work program. Secretary Treasurer Farrar Dyke, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Hart. The Finance Committee has reviewed the draft budget and work program and recommends the Commissioners approve transmitting this draft to the funding jurisdictions in accordance with the WMSC's Master Funding Agreement. Mr. Angie, could you provide a brief summary for us, please?
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Farrar Dyke. This draft budget and work program covers the fiscal year that starts July 1, 2026. It considers the WMSC's workload and responsibilities and the available funding. The draft budget projects that 40% of our program will be supported by federal funds in fiscal year 2026. We continue to follow an effective and organized spending plan for each federal formula grant. In total, the draft budget is just over $7.5 million. As Secretary Treasurer Farrar Dyke noted, the Finance Committee recommended approving the transmission of this draft budget and work program. With Commissioner approval today, we will transmit this to the jurisdictions for use in their budget and planning process by the end of the month, ahead of the deadline in the funding agreement. This draft assists the jurisdictions in their budget process and ensures that our team is prepared to most effectively continue to build on the work we are conducting day in and day out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angie. Is there a motion to adopt resolution R-2025-05, approving the transmission of the draft fiscal year 2027 draft budget and work program to the jurisdictions for review and comment? Is there a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bob. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say yay. Yay. Yes. All opposed, please raise your hand and say nay.
There, the vote is 5 yeas and 0 nays. The motion passes to forward the draft budget and work plan to the jurisdictions.
Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. Now on to the next resolution. The second resolution concerns authorizing the CEO to award a contract in excess of $50,000, which is required under the WMSC procurement process. Mr. Angie, please provide the background information.
Thank you, Chair Hart. The WMSC staff are evaluating continuing its use of contracted support for development of our first strategic plan and program management. Both of these projects began in fiscal year 2025 under a professional services contract, meaning the contractor was paid by task, not a fixed fee for a specific product. The contractor's extensive background in strategic planning, performance management, and transportation governance matched well with the WMSC's requirement to develop and write its first strategic plan, to guide organizational direction, resource allocation, and decision-making. The WMSC relied heavily on the contractor's education of leadership in this process, many of which have not developed or written a strategic plan previously. The contractor has kept management on track with weekly meetings to discuss the status of projects and monthly reports. A sample of these reports was shared with commissioners with the CEO performance submission. The CEO and I have seen the rough draft of the strategic plan, but with the contractor's expertise and guidance, we will move efficiently and effectively to review the draft with the WMSC staff and commissioners, finalize it, and begin its implementation. The contractor also will continue the work that has started on defining and aligning measurable objectives and metrics, including for the agency-wide performance goals. When combined with the contract commitments during fiscal year 2025 for this work, the procurement is expected to exceed $50,000. Therefore, we are requesting authorization for the CEO to proceed with this procurement. Staff reviewed the need for the budgeting for these services with the Finance and Operations Committee during a committee meeting on October 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angie. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. Angie?
I see no hands, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt Resolution R-2025-04, authorizing the CEO to approve or award a contract for consultant services in excess of $50,000? Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed, please raise your hand and say nay.
So Chair, the vote is 5 yeas and 0 nays. The motion passes, authorizing the CEO to enter a contract exceeding $50,000 in value.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Silbaugh. The third resolution concerns the Commissioner's obligation to approve WMATA's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. This plan lays out Metro Rail's commitments to a strong safety culture that reaches everyone from frontline workers and supervisors to executive management. Metro Rail is required to review and update this plan at least annually. The WMSC covers Metro Rail's implementation of this plan and is required to review any updates that Metro Rail makes. Dr. Meyer, do you have anything to add to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hart. As you mentioned earlier today, Metro Rail's annual revision to its agency safety plan, or PTASP, the WMSC or the WMATA Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, includes sections related to Metro Bus and Metro Access. However, our oversight is specific to the sections that are applicable in some way to Metro Rail, as we don't oversee those other service lines. Each revision of Metro Rail's agency safety plan must meet WMSC requirements and federal regulations. To ensure that, Metro Rail's changes must be approved by the WMSC, and we are therefore presenting them for your vote today. To provide for a productive process, our program standard requires that Metro Rail obtain conditional approval from WMSC staff before moving the revision through its final approval process. After several exchanges of comments, staff provided its conditional approval in September. Also, Metrorail's steps leading to this final document include approval by Metrorail's Joint Labor and Management Safety Committee, approval by Metrorail's accountable executive, the general manager, and approval by the WMATA Board of Directors. The WMATA Board voted to approve this agency safety plan revision on October 9th, 2025. The agency safety plan objectives are safety, accountability, and increased use of data. The WMSC is required to review and oversee Metrorail's agency safety plan once approved. The WMSC ensures Metrorail is meeting the requirements of its agency safety plan through our audits, inspections, and other oversight. The WMSC enforces this when needed through the issuance of findings requiring Metrorail to correct safety issues and through other enforcement tools such as orders. Overseeing and checking Metrorail's implementation of these documented safety commitments is a basic element of our program standard and a basic responsibility specified in the WMSC Compact. As I mentioned, the State Safety Oversight Agency for Metrorail, the WMSC, must approve Metrorail's agency safety plan revision before it can be implemented. A vote to approve the plan today means that the commissioners concur with the staff's assessment, the WMSC staff's assessment, that the plan complies with federal law and regulations, that the plan has sufficiently explicit process for safety risk management with adequate means of risk mitigation, that the plan includes a process and timeline for annual reviews and updates, that it includes a comprehensive staff training program for operations personnel directly responsible for safety, that the plan identifies an adequately trained safety officer who reports to the general manager, that it includes adequate methods to be executed, and that the plan has been approved, as I mentioned earlier, by the WMATA Board of Directors. Mr. Raddick can describe how this revised draft agency safety plan differs from the prior year's approved plan. Mr. Raddick?
Throughout the document, there are technical changes to revise department titles, revise personnel titles, revise reference document titles, as well as additional language was added explaining roles and purpose or expectations to the safety committee section, as well as the safety risk assessment sections. The hazard rating process now includes 3 levels of assessment, adding a future or residual risk rating. 2 elements of employee safety training were revised to reflect requirements for hazard communication training and safety management system training. And last, similar to the WMSC's program standard, WMATA added language to its agency safety plan that incorporates the requirements of the new Federal Transit Administration rule on roadway worker protection.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer and Mr. Raddick. Are there any questions from the commissioners about WMATA's agency safety plan?
No hands, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Silva. Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt Resolution R-2025-06, approving the latest version of WMATA's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, which will be effective on December 31st, 2025? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say yay. Yay.
Yes.
Any opposed, please raise your hand and say nay.
Might have heard a little bit, but I believe that the vote was 5 yeas, 0 nays, and the motion passes to approve the WMATA's P task.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other business that the commissioners wish to address today? Hearing none, members of the public, we appreciate your joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. As a reminder, you can always report any safety concerns through our website, wmsc.gov, through our social media channels, or by email. We will hold our next public meeting on December 9th, 2025. Hearing no further business for today, this public meeting is hereby adjourned.